Okay, so I'm a bit late on this, and that's completely my bad. Kind of life took a bit of a turn, so let's get back to Isekai Quartet and how we are back with the Shadow/Sid plotline after Motoyatsu quite literally pissed off majority of the female cast of Isekai Quartet. Tanya's subordinate, Neoman, being the one to talk to Sid and giving this information about Sid's little background character, about he's not special and he was just randomly teleported. And I mean, obviously that's an interesting thing that he's continuing that little route. Well, then again, it's part of his character. Like, he doesn't want to stand out, at least not with his normal persona, because Sid and Shadow, he treats them as like different characters. And then having Naofumi, Subaru, Rem, Beatrice, Raftalia, and Philo having a picnic is obviously wholesome, while Tanya and her like two subordinates are just eating. And obviously Vosh is funny whenever she's like, it involves food. They made her like into a foodie, which is super funny. And obviously every conversation here is just wholesome, though the plot is Tanya trying to solve the identity of Shadow. The conversation obviously pivots into the Seven Shadows and how they are pretty much working for someone mysterious. Now, what intrigues me is the idea of these follower stuff, like how the Seven Shadows follow everything Shadow says. That literally just reminds me of the Floor Guardians, how they basically follow everything Ein says. It's kind of similar, though. I have a good idea of like Shadow and his followers in terms of like how in terms of eminence of Shadow, so I obviously get like I now know better because I've kind of caught up enough. So yeah, I mean, they're kind of similar to, I said the Floor Guardians, I should have specified more like the Battle Mates. They're more really similar with them. But anyway, I did find it funny that Tanya being whisked away by Philo, like literally just grabbed and taken away. That actually made me laugh. And yeah, Tanya and Raftalia having a conversation with Alpha to try to learn a little more of Shadow. Though what gets my attention is specifically how Delta, the one from the Overlord cast, is just petting Philo. That honestly is just how Delta says like anything that is like attractive or like wholesome, cute, whatever you want to put it, it'll get her attention. Hell, what is funny is Tanya made a comment that caused literally everyone in the room to get mad at her, because each of them girls there with Tanya all care for their respective masters, and her comments of them not wanting or refusing to be like refuse to just be a cog in the machine just triggered all of them to yell at her. And each of them like said basically the same thing of, I don't want to just be protected by, well, X character. So essentially, now for me in terms of Raftalia and Philo, Delta for Ainz, and then Alpha for like Shadow. Like each of them do not want, like they care for their respective masters more that they want to follow them. Like I do like this whole thing of the Shadows are basically like pieces of Shadow, like essentially his right arm, his left arm, his leg, like all that kind of stuff. I do like that, and how Raftalia kind of sees it in a similar way to her wanting to be Naofumi's sword and stuff. Like that is so cool because it kind of shows like they're not necessarily not finding independence or wanting to be on their equal side. It's like they care for their master so much they want to protect them. And obviously this is like obviously wholesome stuff. Now what gets my attention is another conversation on how Sid isn't with the Seven Shadows, so keeping like that identity from being discovered, and Pandora's actor coming in and making the comments of like Tanya's like her superiors and how they basically say she is a devil in the skin of a little girl. This triggers Alpha into thinking that there's a connection now with Tanya and Diablos, and then this gets sidetracked for a second because we have a continuation of the flower stuff. And honestly, some of the groups have it like bad, like poor soldier being unable to pull the damn like flower, and even crazy being compared to Darkness. And Darkness, like, look, his group has Garfield, who's like super strong, Aura, who, I mean, elf strong, And then Darkness was just, I mean, something else. That and Kazuma just screwing him over because, you know, Ainz basically offered to help, and then Kazuma's like, no, he's got it. It's like, dude, you don't have to be a dick to him. Oh, man, I feel bad. And then Aqua's group, like, they can't stand how she is. And how one of the soldiers from Tanya's platoon basically noticed that, like, yes, they don't like Aqua's kind of comments, but they definitely, like, Ram kind of does similarly, and Ram just does her usual thing, because it's like, Ram says it, and, I mean, she's not obnoxious like Aqua is. And then, obviously, back to the Shadow stuff, and this is like the after credits, and honestly, Shadow is just talking out of his ass, and I love it. Like, dude is just spouting random shit and making his 7 shadows literally have to come up with what the hell is he saying, and eventually leads to saying, oh, well, that class is full of, like, Dark Lord, being Ainz, as, like, obviously monsters, the whole thing with Tanya now, so they're clearly viewing them as a threat, so I assume a confrontation is bound to happen. But fucking Shadow, Sid, like, dude, he is literally just saying random shit. And what I'm interested in is that I want to know whether or not who's gonna, like, reveal, maybe not to all of them, or all the characters, but at least who's going to be the one to definitely put the puzzle together, maybe confront Sid on the matter and actually, like, say, yeah, I know who you are, kind of thing. Because my guess is who would be able to solve this is Subaru, Kazuma, Naofumi, and Ainz. Because honestly, I just feel like one of those 4 have, like, the potential to basically put 2 and 2 together and be like, yep, this is that guy, considering, like, they're gamers, that they know gaming stuff, they know, like, they're Subaru, Kazuma, and Ainz all had the same thought about Shadow, that he's honestly just saying shit to look cool, so they obviously know how Shadow kind of mentally is. And I think at least one of those 3. Now for me, obviously, when it comes down to mystery stuff, like, he's good at figuring people out. And not to mention, like, they both share the same class, so obviously now for me has the closest chance of figuring it out. But overall, like, outside of that, I enjoyed the episode. Like, Isekai Quartet is enjoyable. And yes, I will mention this. Beatrice and Philo together is just so fucking wholesome.